All right, now as we enter the dark arc of the year, I'm reminded of Albert Camus' line. In the depth of winter, I finally learned that within me there lay an invincible summer. Winter is real, my friends, as you can tell. The days are shorter, colder, and darker. And for many of us, this brings a heavier mood. Yet within us, there is a warmth that doesn't vanish with the sun. Camus' invincible summer and Walt Whitman's ever-returning spring. These are just two ways of naming the same truth. There is a life in you that keeps unfolding, a steady flow of presence that renews you from inside out. Our work is not to create this light. It already exists. Our work isn't to find this light. My friends, it's right here, right now. The goal then is to connect with the light and let it move through us, a living expression of the divine. And today, to help us explore how we can trust that evergreen aliveness and let it express through us as real light in real darkness, whether at home or at work or in this community, we welcome Reverend Joanna Drew. Joanna is a native Victorian who began her spiritual journey after retiring from a 35-year career in the government. Following the path laid out by Ernest Holmes, she was ordained in 2023 through the Center for Spiritual Living, where she served as an associate minister for 10 years. Today, she hosts monthly spiritual gatherings in her beautiful garden, and these gatherings are open to everyone, much like these gatherings. What a coincidence. Beautiful alignment there. So if you're ever interested in attending one of Joanna's garden parties, please let her know after or during the gathering. And with that, I will welcome Reverend Joanna to share her truth with us.
What a lovely big crowd, my goodness. And I think the last time I was here, there were about half this many people here. And I thought, oh, it'd be a small group. It'd be nice and intimate. Well, this is a huge mob. It's lovely. How nice to see you. You might have wondered why I chose a talk title of Your Evergreen Spirit. As we are deep at the end of autumn, watching the last of the canopy of the red and gold leaves fall to the ground from all the deciduous trees. What remains, however, are all the evergreen trees, always renewing, always visibly alive, and beautifully providing shade and shelter throughout every season. This seemed to me an excellent metaphor for the spiritual life which each of us is living. Regardless of where we are on our spiritual journey, regardless of the season of our lives, that part of us that is our essence, spirit, is ever present and always thriving. We are, at heart, evergreen. And I thank the person who did this lovely display here for us. Just a lovely symbol. Thank you for this evergreen theme. What always interests me about the lives of people who are spiritual seekers is how diverse our backgrounds, paths of learning, and even our foundational beliefs might be. The common thread among us is that deep knowing that spirit, God, universal consciousness, whatever you choose to call it, is everywhere present. And each of us is always awakening to a deeper understanding. That is the journey we share. And on this journey in the everyday, mundane world, there are milestones we mark as a community and as a country. One of these is coming up, Remembrance Day. As we approach Remembrance Day, it is always a time of reflection, remembering those who fought and died in order that we might enjoy the lives that we have today. Some people think that Remembrance Day is a glorification of war and refuse to wear a red poppy. Some people think that the white poppy of peace may be disrespectful. I wear both because my prayer is always for peace. And I thank all those whose lives were given in service to our country. My father was one of those. He did not die in war, he fought in 2 world wars, which is quite remarkable. I'm older than I look. How could I not be grateful to him for all that he did? His life basically was framed by 2 wars that he never wanted to participate in, but he did. He was in the Air Force. This day reminds us that peace is not accidental. It is protected, nurtured, and sometimes paid for in ways unseen. Veterans embody a devotion to something larger than self, a sacred offering of presence, resilience, and love of country and community. And we, in turn, are invited to ask, how do I serve? Not all guardians of peace stand on battlefields. Some stand in homes, workplaces, and neighborhoods, choosing compassion over division, understanding over fear, service over indifference. As we are in a time of remembrance, I think it is helpful to also remember the lives of those unrecognized trailblazers of history, many of whom were women. These individuals are unsung heroines in our daily lives. No one knows their names or says thank you. And yet it seems to me we owe many nameless brave women and men our gratitude for their dedication to making our society and our lives what they are today. I want to share the story of one such woman. Let us remember Frances Perkins on this Remembrance Day, and I'm sure you've never heard of her. Is there anyone who has ever heard of Frances Perkins? I doubt it. Oh, yes. Well, that's because you read my talk. Thank you, David. So as a girl, Frances Perkins couldn't understand why good people lived in poverty. Her father said the poor were lazy or weak. Frances, even then, knew that couldn't be true. At Mount Holyoke College, she studied physics. It was a fairly safe, respectable, appropriate thing for a young woman to do. Then came a class trip that changed everything. Her professor took students to tour factories along the Connecticut River. Frances saw exhausted girls younger than herself bent over machines in rooms with no windows, no ventilation, no exits, 12-hour shifts, 6-day weeks, fingers lost to machinery, lungs destroyed by cotton dust. She realized knowledge meant nothing if it didn't help people live with dignity. She earned a master's degree at Columbia University in economics and sociology, writing her thesis on malnutrition in Hell's Kitchen. Her family was horrified. Nice girls didn't study poverty. They certainly didn't live in settlement houses with immigrants. Frances didn't care what nice girls did. By 1910, she was executive secretary of the New York Consumers League, investigating factories, documenting violations, pushing for reform. Clean bakeries, safe exits, maximum working hours. She testified before legislative committees, a young woman in a tailored suit telling powerful men their factories were killing people. They hated her. She didn't stop. Then came March 25th, 1911. Frances was having tea with friends in Washington Square when she heard the fire bells. She followed the smoke to the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, 10 stories of flame and screaming. She stood on the street and watched young women jump from 9th floor windows because the factory owners had locked the doors to prevent theft and unauthorized breaks. 146 women died. Most were immigrant women and young girls, some as young as 14. They'd been making shirtwaists. The fashionable blouses wealthy women war to demonstrate their modernity and independence. Frances made herself a promise that day. Their deaths would not be in vain. Within weeks, Frances was appointed to the committee investigating the fire. She didn't just write a report. She rewrote New York's labor laws from the ground up. Fire exits, unlocked, accessible, clearly marked. Maximum occupancy limits, sprinkler systems, regular safety inspections, 54-hour maximum work week, 1 day off per week. Factory owners fought every provisions. They called it government overreach. They said it would destroy business. They said workers were trying to get something for nothing. Frances responded with photographs of the triangle dead, the testimony from survivors, with cold economic data showing that safe workplaces were more productive, not less productive. New York passed the laws. Other states followed. Within just over a decade, American and Canadian workplaces had been transformed, not completely, not perfectly, but irreversibly. And Frances Perkins became the most hated woman in industrial America. She absorbed the hatred and kept working. In 1933, Franklin Roosevelt, newly elected president facing the Great Depression, asked Frances to join his cabinet as Secretary of Labor. She was 53 years old. No woman had ever served in a presidential cabinet. The idea was considered radical, possibly unconstitutional, definitely improper. Frances said she'd do it, but only on her terms. She handed Roosevelt a list of demands: a 40-hour work week, a minimum wage, abolition of child labor, unemployment insurance, old age pensions. Roosevelt looked at the list and said, "You know this is impossible." "Then find someone else," Frances said. Roosevelt appointed her anyway. For 12 years, longer than any other labor secretary in the United States history, Frances Perkins fought for those impossible demands, and she won most of them. The U.S. Labor Standards Act of 1938, 40-hour work week, minimum wage, child labor restrictions. The U.S. Social Security Act of 1935, old age pensions, unemployment insurance, support for dependent children. Canada slowly, quite slowly, followed the U.S. lead. The laws weren't perfect. They excluded agricultural and domestic workers, a compromise Frances hated, but accepted to get something passed. But millions of workers gained protections that had never existed before. Frances was never satisfied. She wanted more. She fought for universal health care and failed. She fought for broader coverage. She partially succeeded. She fought against every senator and congressman who tried to water down protections. They called her pushy, difficult, and unwomanly. She wore the same black dress and tricorn hat to every public appearance, a uniform that said, "I'm not here to be decorative, I'm here to work." When Roosevelt died in 1945, Frances resigned. She'd been in the cabinet for 12 years, the longest serving U.S. Labor Secretary in American history, male or female. She could have retired wealthy, celebrated. Instead, she taught labor history at Cornell, writing and lecturing until her death in 1965 at the age of 85. Most people have never heard her name. But every time you get paid overtime, that's Frances Perkins. Every time a workplace has a clearly marked fire exit, that's Frances Perkins. Every time someone collects Social Security or unemployment insurance, that's Frances Perkins. Every weekend you have off, that's Frances Perkins. She stood on a street in 1911 and watched 146 women die. Frances proved that poverty was a policy choice, and policy can be changed. Most people still don't know her name. I have no idea whether Frances Perkins saw herself as a spiritual person or a spiritual seeker, but she definitely saw herself as someone who is committed to making a positive difference in her world against all odds. And it seems to me that spirituality is calling each of us to make a difference in whatever way we can, to build a better world through our knowing that love is always the answer. We don't have to be rich or powerful or well-educated to make a difference. I love the story of Ralph, who was a clerk in a supermarket. He noticed how some of his regular customers looked sad or troubled, and he began to write cheerful notes on the back of their grocery receipts just to brighten their days. Maybe we just make a point of smiling at all the people we meet and know that just a smile can lift someone's heart. For me, spirituality is an everyday business. It isn't living as a monk on a mountaintop. It is using spiritual principles in our daily and sometimes messy and complicated lives. This is where spirituality meets its test. Most of us live in this material world of jobs and paychecks, raising families, finding ways to pay a mortgage or rent, helping to make the lives of our families, excuse me, and loved ones better day by day. Some among us may have been able to take time to study spirituality for many years without any of these distractions of the practical necessities of every day. But those among us are very rare. What I love about New Thought teaching is how we are led through prayer and meditation to find new ways of expressing ourselves, new outlets for our talents and creativity, new ways to heal old hurts and solve old dilemmas. It is this universal bedrock of spirituality that enables us to grow and change and become the best versions of ourselves. No one ever said it would be easy or quick. It isn't. It is relying on Spirit every day in every circumstance to guide you and lift you up, give you the courage to do what you might have thought you couldn't possibly do. I love the poems of Walt Whitman. He writes about the ever-returning spring. He is not referring to the annual occurrence of winter giving way to spring, but rather the eternal evolving of ourselves, the constancy of growth and renewal. We are forever new, brand new each moment. Those of you who've heard me speak before know I always include jokes in my talks. First of all, everybody wakes up for the jokes if the talk is too serious. Secondly, humor and laughter are essential to health and healing. So here goes. These are real announcements from church bulletins. Attend the fasting and prayer conference this Saturday, meals included. At the evening service tonight, the sermon topic will be What is Hell? Come early and listen to the choir practice. I like that one. 8 new choir robes are currently needed due to the addition of several new members and to the deterioration of some older ones. Low self-esteem support group will meet Thursday at 7 p.m. Please use the back door. The 8th graders will be presenting Shakespeare's Hamlet in the church basement Friday at 7 p.m. The congregation is invited to attend this tragedy. So there you go. So let's remember that our past is not our potential. All the ages of the past, all the experiences we have ever had, do not limit us today. We can release the burden of the past. As we remember all the gifts that we've been given, the very gifts of our lives, our health, families and friends, all our relationships, let us be truly grateful. We focus on the good, the positive. An external world that appears chaotic does not need to be the foundation of our reality. The foundation of our reality is that Spirit, God, universal consciousness, the divine, lives in and expresses as you right here, right now. You are each powerful creative beings who are empowered through your thinking to co-create a future that is bright and beautiful. Hold that thought and know it is the key to your future. Your spirit is evergreen. I want to close with this lovely short prayer by Scott Aubrey. Infinite presence, I honor all who have served and died in war, and I affirm that humankind is coming to its senses, that every human soul awakens as an instrument of peace. May we be in a world where we do not live in fear, where a vision of hope, plenty, and peace is realized in our hearts and throughout the land. Thank you, God, forever. So it is.